Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer. This is Metatron speaking. If you are new to this channel, I am a channeler. A lot of times I channel Metatron, but a lot of times I channel gods and goddesses, ascended masters, other angels. This channel is really just messages that I've channeled from higher beings, or a lot of times it's past lifetimes of mine, or maybe just even interactions that I'm having with guides. What I have for you today is another kind of just an interaction, mostly with Egyptian god Amun Ra. And I haven't interacted with him a lot. So this is just kind of, I don't know, putting it out there for all of you to kind of look at. Um, There's nothing that when I'm looking at this exchange between him and myself, there's nothing really that stands out about it where I'm like, yeah, this is the reason why I really need to share this with everybody. But I think what happens when I share these experiences that I have with my spirit guides, what I think happens for all of you is probably one of a few things. For some of you, maybe it opens up your perspective to um, maybe realizing that something that seemed small in the past that you noticed that you felt like was from one of your guides, realizing that maybe you can find out more information about these things later that give a much bigger scope, a much bigger perspective, and put meaning to these little things. Um, it's good to write down any kind of interaction you feel like you're having with any of your guides, whether it's through dreams, whether you're finding feathers or like hearts always all over the place, or whether you're like hearing a word in your head when you're like waking up in the morning, whatever it is, if you're seeing stuff when you're meditating. Always write it down because your guides are like laying all these breadcrumbs to try to lead you to the right messages. Um, so I'm hoping that by sharing my experiences, it maybe opens your mind up to more things that are maybe relevant that you didn't think were relevant, or maybe it just validates something that you experienced that you're like, huh, I don't even know if this is a thing. I don't even know if this is important, but maybe something I said, it clicks for you and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that helps. That's what I'm hoping happens. That's what Metatron is telling me will happen. Um, if you haven't watched my channel before, if I'm talking with my guides, my shoulders can move sometimes, like they'll move my face, they'll move all kinds of things on me. They like to line up with my body in order to verify information like a pendulum. So instead of, doing yes, no on a pendulum, I get yes on this side and no on this side if it moves. But that's just so you know what's going on. Or if you see me like look off into the distance, it's because I'm trying to access visual information. I'm trying to tap into my clairvoyance in order to see a picture, in order to understand more. So normally I'll look that way, but I can probably look anyway and get the information. So let me tell you about this experience with Amun Ra. So I I wanted to channel, and his image kind of popped into my mind, so I knew he was willing. So I asked him to like come to me, and we kind of just sat in silence for a moment, which was weird for me because I was like asking him questions and then he wasn't answering. um and so I wanted to tell you what he looks like to me. And what he looks like to me is not really important. He might look entirely different to you, and that's okay. The way that these guides visually appear to us, it's super subjective. Part of it's based on maybe what we expect to see, and maybe part of it's based on how they like to appear to us. I don't know. I don't know all the answers to this one, but I do know that not everyone gets necessarily the exact same image. So for Almond Ra, the way he appears to me is he looks like a very dark skinned black man to me. And he wears white, And so his white clothing actually, it almost looks more like a Greek god clothing to me, which is confusing because he's an Egyptian god. But there you go, it's subjective, right? So he's got like the white sash and he's got like the white, what I'm going to call a skirt. It's really like a robe of some form. It's like a Greek god kind of robe. But he's got a white hat and you know, more narrow at his head and then it goes out. It's kind of like something you would expect Nefertiti to wear. And the coolest detail about him that just stands out to me forever is he's wearing blue eyeliner, like light blue eyeliner, but only on the bottom of his eyes. So I see like light blue. And because his skin is so dark black, the light blue really pops on his face. And it kind of gives him this, like, I don't know, very mysterious Egyptian vibe. Um, So he sits down with me, he sits across from me, and he's like sitting cross-legged across from me, which is different because the other couple times I've interacted with him, he's either been like standing up and like walking around me with like authority, or one time he was like sitting on a throne. And so for him to sit cross-legged across from me was made him feel very accessible, and so that was kind of a different energy for him. Um, and then I see our surroundings change because when I first go, it's just kind of like black. There's nothing. And it's just me and him. So the surroundings change, and he takes me to a place that I used to go to all the time in my meditations. So before I had made any contact with spirit guides, before, um, probably even before I even knew I had spirit guides to a large extent, really. Um, really early into my journey, I was doing a lot of guided meditations. I was doing like inner child work and that sort of thing. If you haven't done it before, they are all over YouTube. Find one that you like. There are lots of super effective, completely free guided meditations to help you release inner child trauma, which is completely necessary for all of us. But there, a lot of these guided meditations, they'd have you imagine somewhere where you feel like safe or happy. And so there's this one place that I would always envision, and it would be like kind of this low cliff, and there would be a beach. And the cliff wasn't very high up at all. It was just higher up than the beach. And up on the cliff, it'd be like grass and a tree. Um, and these things that you do in guided meditations, you think they're so random, right? No, there's nothing random. So much, much, much later, I learned that this visual I was getting was actually an Andromedan planet called Embogny. So this is a real place that I've been in a past life that I apparently enjoyed. I haven't seen the details yet, so I don't know. But this is actually a place that, when for some reason, not really for some reason, because there's no accidents. When I was learning Reiki, and um, I did like the online Reiki teaching, which was actually fantastic. I had a teacher from like Australia. She was magnificent. Anyways, so I did the online Reiki, and there's all these courses, and one of them is, telling you to visualize this, that, and the other thing. And I ended up not visualizing what she was telling me to visualize. I did it in a different way, and that was the first time that I started pulling this location into my visuals. And I also would go there with Jesus, which is like, why did I need Jesus to do Reiki? It makes no sense, right? Um, it makes sense now in hindsight, because in hindsight now I'm going, okay, Yeshua is a light bearer. Yeshua is a master healer. He can do miraculous healings. So, of course, he would be the perfect teacher to teach me energy healing, to work with me. Um, so, it makes sense now why he was there. Yeshua is also his higher self is Metatron, who I now work with. So this was before I knew Metatron, before I worked with Metatron, that I was doing this. Um, and so in this location with this like grass, and I'm overlooking the beach, it's always dark. It's always nighttime. And if you look up, there's always like tons of bright stars. And so there's been a couple times now where I meet up with Amun Ra and I see stars. And I'm like, huh, nothing's a coincidence. There's something to this. Why does he keep showing up at nighttime and showing me all these stars? And so I asked him, I said, it's funny because I ask him, but really it's like I know, I'm just validating with him. I said, you are the god of constellations. And he says, yes. And then I like rephrased that same question. And all of a sudden, it meant something entirely different to me. And I said, you are the god of stars. And all of a sudden, it just felt like it had so much weight to it. Um, and so when I was like, you are the god of stars, he didn't even say anything back because he knew I knew. Um, the god of, for some reason, the god of stars, that to me is like, obviously, I'm talking about creator, right? Well, none of this should be a surprise to me because all gods and goddesses are a facet or a personality of the one energy, which is creator. So that shouldn't surprise me that I can link back a god to creator. Um, but it just felt really creatory. It felt really heavy to me because I don't know, and maybe some of you are like this too, but I was born knowing that I just really loved Creator. I really loved God. And so I don't know. So I don't know if you guys have that too, or if that's just like a me experience, but I'm just gonna throw that out there. So it was kind of interesting because he when I'm like, you're the god of stars, and I know he is, I'm just like, ah, I get this like twinge in my heart or something because I'm like, I love the I love the one who made the stars. Like I know I do. But then I'm like looking at Amun Ra and I'm like, you're always kind of stoic with me. You're always kind of serious. Um, it's kind of like mystical. Um, so I never really associated him with creator, even though he is an aspect of creator. Um, And so I realized, okay, this is the way Amun Ra does things. He kind of drops hints about things, like he keeps showing me the stars, and he lets me put this together on my own. And so this is actually a characteristic of Metatron. If you ever work with him, he will never like shove information down your throat. He'll kind of just put stuff out there, and if you catch on to it, cool. And if you aren't interested in it, then that's fine too. So they kind of just let you figure out things on your own. So Amun Ra, he drew this symbol in the grass in between where we were, and it started like glowing. And I realized that he was actually drawing his symbol. So there are symbols associated with all different kinds of energy. Um, in the Patreon group that Susan and I have, we are already aware of several different ones. So, for example, um, specific archangels can have their own symbol. Uh, like the Dragon Collective has their own symbol. Each god or goddess has their own symbol. And it kind of just goes on and on and on and on. So it was kind of cool. So Amun Ra was showing me his symbol. So that's kind of special because they don't all just show those to you right off the bat. So he showed me his. Um, and then a flower grew up from the ground, from in the middle, from the center of the symbol. And so I'm like, okay, this is like showing me abundance. Like his symbol marks abundance or creates abundance, has abundance with it. And then so he like picks the flower and the flower grows right back. So he's showing me this is abundance and it has an infinite source. This is not going to run out. You can keep picking those flowers all day. So he's actually like kind of playing around. He keeps picking the flowers. He ends up making me like this little flower crown. And it's like pinkish purple flowers. And then the symbol that was in the ground, it kind of opens up. It turns into like a portal where all of a sudden light is coming out of it. And I could look down into it and theoretically look at maybe a past lifetime, but definitely another time, another space kind of thing. So I could see that even though I wasn't looking down into it. And then before I actually looked into it, I heard this song playing in my head, which you guys probably don't even know this song because it's from like probably the 80s. Um, it's called Tonight, Tonight, Tonight by Genesis. So the reason it's relevant is that like every day when I drive in my car, I'll I'll tell my guides, "Hey, you're in control of my radio. I'm going to put it on shuffle. You know, the next three songs that come through, I know they're from my guides. And I know which songs come through for Archangel Michael. I know which songs Metatron likes to play for me. So I know like who's saying hi just by what song is playing. Ra, who is probably, I'm going to say he's the god I interact with the most, even though I interact with Odin all day long as well. I don't talk to Odin a lot, but he does work for me every day because he protects me and he helps clear my energy. Um, but Ra is kind of the figure for me of God. So Ra, when he wants to say hi, he plays Genesis or he plays Phil Collins songs, which Phil Collins is like the lead singer of this band. So it's kind of interesting because I'm hearing this song and I'm like, okay, but I'm talking to Amun Ra. I'm not talking to Ra. So Amun Ra is like, everyone was saying like, oh, Amun Ra is like Amun plus Ra, and it's like this like combo god. But if you, from what I can tell, Amun Ra is like 0% like Ra, like zero, like they're opposites. Their personality is nothing like each other whatsoever. So I don't think one has really anything to do with the other one. But it's kind of weird because I hear the music and I'm like, okay, this is the song I associate with Ra, but you're purposely doing this so that I know it's you, Amun Ra. And so it was like a validation again, um, that it's like if you're talking to one God, you're talking to all the gods, you're talking to you're talking to creator basically, right? And so I don't know, I guess it threw me off because like with so this is how they're opposites in my opinion. Ra is very like in your face, loves to be the center of attention, very like wants to help, very personable, loves giving gifts, like he's just fun. Amun Ra is like the largeness of God, the mystery of God. He's like a very serious component of creator. Um and so it's like it's almost like opposites, right? Because it's like Ra is very accessible, and Amun Ra is like very like larger than life. And yet, both of these are components of creator, even though they seem like they're opposites, they're part of the one. So Amun Ra says, we need many forms to convey our complete self. Your challenge is to display all of these things within a physical form. And so he's basically like saying, like, yeah, like we're gods, we're a bunch of facets of creator, but your challenge is to be every facet of creator while you're in a body. And so I hear myself say, like, with confidence, I can do that, but it's not me saying it. And so I'm like, where is this voice coming from? And so that portal that opened up, I'm looking down into that portal and I'm like, who's in there? Has to be a past life or something of mine. And so I look into the portal and I see light bodies. So these are just like single bright lights that represent a soul. Um, so I'm a light body, I'm a yellow light. I am talking to other light bodies, and we're somewhere bright, and there's white clouds around us. So this is actually the realm of the gods. But normally, when I see the realm of the gods, people have bodies that they have projected out. There's no physical bodies because it's too high up to have a body. It's like I think it's like ninth and 10th. I could be wrong. 11th and 12th. Wow, I'm totally wrong. It's the 11th and 12th dimensions. That's why I'm checking my cheat sheet over here. 11th and 12th dimensions is the realm of the gods. But too high up for a body because if you're higher than 70, there's no bodies. So instead of having bodies, we were just a bunch of lights. So I looked closely at myself and I can see it was really cool. And I wish so badly I could show you guys. So I'm not just like, it's not like a flashlight. It's not like I'm just like this one bright single light, although that's what it looked like. As I looked closer, I could see like these, what looked like golden orbits, is the best I could describe it. There was action happening around. There's movement with this. It's not just yellow, there's also like a darker yellow that's almost an orange, um, which my understanding is this is like depth to the energy, depth to the soul, darkness to the soul. Um, and there was also like a rainbow sheen on one part of it that was really beautiful. And it's like, again, it's like moving. It's not like a stable, it's not like a snapshot. It's like a video that's constantly moving, moving, moving. Um, so it looked really cool. It looked more like a galaxy than like a sun. And then I see that I'm speaking with someone who is like light blue and dark blue, and they had tons of rainbow on them, and they were like so beautiful. They just made me look like, like they totally outshone me. Like they were so pretty. And so I was like trying to feel their energy, and I felt darkness, but also safety at the same time. I had to ask who it was. It ended up being Horus, who I've interacted with before, but I guess not enough for me to know his energy by heart, at least not without the visual. Normally, Horus is this, like a vortex, basically. He shows up like a vortex. He shows up like a golden bird of prey. Um, but yeah, without that visual, I couldn't piece him together very quickly. So, okay, just checking with my guides. I'm like, do you want me to talk about all this? And they're like, yep. So normally Horus, when he takes a physical form, he normally shows up as a Greek god, which again makes no sense because Horus is an Egyptian god. Um, and so, because and so this is what he did because he was the blue light. He takes a physical form. He looks like a Greek god, and I'm like, hey, you look a lot like Eros, and he's like, no, I'm not Eros. And I was like, you look a lot like Eros, like almost like twins. And so he said Anteros. So Anteros is, once I Googled it, Anteros is Eros's brother. So a few weeks ago, I randomly got the word Antero in my mind. And that's when I Googled it to try to find it and found out that there was this Greek god named Anteros with an S at the end. So I was like, okay, that's probably what they were trying to give to me, and I just didn't catch the S. Um, and it didn't mean anything to me at the time. But now I'm like, oh, Horus is the same soul as this Anteros guy, and he was trying to reach out to me. Now it makes sense. Um, I had this happen one other time with Artemis. The first time I ever channeled anything was Artemis's name popped into my head. I did not know who Artemis was. I had to Google. I thought it was a man's name. I thought it was a cool sounding guy's name. And I was like, oh dang, this is a goddess. Shows you what I know. So anyways, I see myself. I'm a light body. I'm there with Horus. I end up getting identities of these other lights that are with us. I see. So there's me and and Teros. There, Eros was also there. His brother. Isis was there. Odin was there. Odin was so young, I thought he was Thor. I was like, is that Thor? And they were like, no, that is Odin. I'm like, what? I guess it makes sense. If you're a god and you can look however you want to look, you're probably going to show up in your prime, right? You're not going to show up like 70, 80 years old. Not that 70 or 80 can't be your prime. Don't misunderstand me. But physically speaking, they wanted to appear younger. Um, and then Bastet was one of them, which really threw me off because I've never even talked to her. So this is what they showed me. We are competitive with each other. We place a bet. So I'm apparently a god or a goddess. I'm a goddess. I've seen myself from the back. I have really long brown hair. They don't tell me who I am. They're like, it's not important. So we are competitive with each other. We place a bet for bragging rights. Which one of us can incarnate and display the most divine qualities and understanding while still in a body? It is a delicious challenge for all of us. We know that incarnated souls have no memory of their divinity or power. And then from their perspective, this is what I can feel. It's like, oh yeah, let's do this challenge because it takes no effort on their parts because they're almost like, it's almost like they're kings and queens and they're just like, yeah, we're just going to send our servants to go incarnate, but it's not their servants. They're breaking off a duplicate piece of their soul. Basically, they're duplicating their soul and sending their duplicate to go incarnate while they're still hanging out in realm of the gods. So from the perspective of whoever I am, I say it is a game for us, something exciting to watch and see how it plays out. This was early in our development, so early in our spiritual development. So you can tell by what we're talking about and how we're talking about it that we don't have the greatest spiritual maturity. This is probably super early on in the evolution of things. Metatron shows me that this is an ongoing wager with me and these other souls across many different forms of our souls across many different planets. So I have a channeled message now from Amun Ra, and this will kind of finish out this video. So Amun Ra says, all souls are a facet of God. In each soul, there is the self-assuredness of a god or goddess. You have been pretending to be ordinary for so long that you actually believe it. Your belief is your block. The truth is that you are divine. Your belief is that you are limited or not good enough. Gods do not care whether others like them. Why do you care so much what others think about you? When you receive criticism from others, it is because they fear the power of who you are. They have small-minded thoughts and small-minded ways. Do not shrink yourself to please small-minded individuals. Do not judge them for wanting to be small. It is their choice to live how they wish to. But do not try to contain yourself within their narrow vision of what life should be. Allow yourself to expand to your full length and depth, for that is why you came. So that is Amun Ra's message, essentially reminding us all that we are all facets duplicates of God, of Creator. We all have the same capacity for the same power, the same influence, the same effect, the same love, the same everything. So it's just kind of calling you into confidence because he's basically saying it's the way we view ourselves as less that's the block. It's not the truth. It's an illusion of the mind. So he's saying, remove that block so you can step forward into who you are. Okay. So this is what I have for you here. If you didn't watch the live session that I did recently, I want to let you know about two brand new services that we have out right now. One of them is the energy tune-up. This is to do exactly what it sounds like, to tune up your energy. Think of your body as being like a vehicle, being like a car, you know? Every once in a while, things get a little out of balance and you're not feeling your best, and then it's probably time for a tune-up. If you want to do the full healing with Metatron session, of course you can. But if you're looking for just something um, more affordable, less time, then you can do the energy tune-up. So that's available right now on the website, orangelightenergy.com. I'll put the link in the description. The other service that we have brand new right now is messages with your guides. So if you're looking to communicate with your guides, if you're looking to hear messages from them, I can do a combination of oracle cards, tarot cards, and channeling in order to get those messages for you. This service that I'm offering is no Zoom call. This is just me putting in the time to get the information, writing it all out for you, and then emailing that to you. So if you're interested in that, messages with your guides, that is also available right now. Okay, you guys, this is all I have for now. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.